October 3rd, 1993. Have you ever imagined being trapped in a city where every window hides an enemy? Every alley reeks of smoke and blood, and the only light is the fire burning around your fallen brothers? That was the reality for U.S. Special Forces during the Battle of Mogadishu, a mission that was supposed to last 30 minutes, but turned into an 18-hour nightmare of survival. What most people don't know is that this operation, codenamed Gothic Serpent, was designed to capture two top aides of Somali warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid, whose militia had been starving civilians and attacking UN convoys. The U.S. elite soldiers, Delta Force operators, Army Rangers, and members of the 160th SAW Night Stalkers launched the assault at 3:42 p.m. The air hummed with the sound of rotors, a metallic heartbeat of war. But within minutes, everything went wrong. One of the Black Hawk helicopters, Super 6-1, piloted by Cliff Wolcott, was struck by a rocket-propelled grenade and spiraled down, smashing into a Mogadishu street. A second helicopter, Super 6-4, was hit shortly after, scattering wreckage and lives across the chaos. What many never hear about is the horror that followed. Civilians dragging the bodies of fallen soldiers through the streets as militia forces surrounded the crash sites, chanting victory in a language drowned out by the screams of pain and the echo of gunfire. The city became a maze of ambushes. The Special Forces, trained for stealth and speed, found themselves fighting block by block, room by room, against thousands of armed fighters. They used pieces of burning helicopter metal as shields, hid behind broken walls, and fought hand-to-hand in alleys so narrow they could smell the gunpowder on their enemy's breath. Delta snipers Gary Gordon and Randy Shughart volunteered to protect the second crash site, fully aware it was a suicide mission. With only minutes of ammunition, they fought off wave after wave of gunmen until both were killed. Their actions would later earn them the Medal of Honor. But what truly chills the blood are the moments that were never shown in the news. Soldiers whispering prayers as bullets tore through their vests. Medics using belt straps as tourniquets, while shrapnel whizzed by their ears. And the strange silence that followed every explosion. The eerie pause before the next scream. Some accounts tell of bodies dismembered and hung as trophies, others of terrified U.S. troops running out of water and ammo, biting down on empty shells to stay awake from shock. Reinforcements finally arrived at dawn, a convoy of UN and Malaysian armored vehicles that blasted through the city to rescue the survivors. When they emerged, 18 Americans were dead, 73 wounded, and hundreds of Somalis lay scattered, their lifeless eyes staring up at the smoke-stained sky. Yet what most people don't know is that this battle changed everything about modern U.S. warfare. New night vision tactics, urban combat training, and helicopter protocols were rewritten in blood because of that day. For the men who lived, the ghosts of Mogadishu never left. They carried them home in their nightmares, the smell of burning flesh, the sound of their friends' last breath. The haunting question that still lingers in every soldier's heart. When the mission turns to madness and death walks beside you, what does it truly mean to fight for your life? You said, please bit more prolonged. ChatGPT said, October 3rd, 1993. Have you ever imagined being trapped in a foreign city where every window hides a sniper? Every echo could be your last and every shadow whispers death. That was the hellish reality faced by U.S. Special Forces on that fateful day in Mogadishu, Somalia, during what would later be known as the Battle of Mogadishu, one of the most haunting and brutal firefights in modern American military history. What began as a precise short mission, expected to last no more than 30 minutes, turned into 18 hours of relentless bloodshed, fear, and desperate survival. The operation, known as Gothic Serpent, had one goal: to capture two of warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid's top lieutenants, who were fueling chaos and mass starvation in a city already choking on violence. As the elite Delta Force and Army Rangers, supported by the 160th SAW Night Stalkers, descended from the sky in a symphony of rotors and steel, few could have predicted the horror that awaited them on the ground. The first minutes seemed textbook perfect. Fast ropes dropped, targets secured, but then, out of nowhere, a deafening whoosh sliced through the air. A rocket-propelled grenade ripped into the side of the Black Hawk Super 6-1, piloted by Cliff Wolcott, sending it spiraling into the streets below. Thick black smoke poured into the sky, painting the beginning of a nightmare. Minutes later, another chopper, Super 6-4, was struck. The city erupted. Thousands of armed Somalis poured into the streets, their chants echoing through the concrete canyons as U.S. soldiers scrambled for cover. What most people never hear about are the terrifying details that followed. Radios filled with screams, medics trying to plug wounds with their bare hands, and snipers firing through walls to stop advancing mobs. Every building became a fortress of death, every corner a trap. Soldiers ran out of ammunition and water, using debris and even parts of the helicopter to build makeshift barricades. As night fell, the city transformed into something out of a nightmare. Burning wreckage lit up the alleys, casting long, flickering shadows of men fighting for their lives. Tracer rounds sliced the darkness like red lightning. Delta snipers. Gary Gordon and Randy Shughart, seeing the second crash site overwhelmed, requested to be inserted on the ground to protect the downed crew, even though command told them it was too dangerous. They insisted, saying simply, "We'll hold them off." Armed with limited ammo, they defended the wreck for as long as humanly possible, taking down wave after wave of militia fighters until both were killed. Their sacrifice earned them the Medal of Honor, but in that moment, there was no glory. Only silence, smoke, and the sound of blood hitting dust. Inside the city, horror reached a new level. Some soldiers later recalled seeing civilians dragging the bodies of Americans through the streets, cheering as if it were a festival of death. Others described the eerie laughter of enemy fighters echoing through the alleys as they reloaded magazines. A few Rangers began hallucinating from exhaustion, hearing voices in the dark. One medic wrote in his notes later that he had to choose which man to save and which to let die because there wasn't enough blood plasma left. At one point, Rangers used night vision goggles to spot movement inside burning homes, discovering militia fighters hiding behind the bodies of women and children. Reinforcements tried to reach the trapped soldiers multiple times, but were met with ambush after ambush. Streets were blocked by burning trucks, and rooftops rained down bullets. The special forces found themselves surrounded on all sides, fighting against over 3,000 armed Somalis with only limited ammunition. It became less a mission and more a test of human endurance and willpower. Men were shot, patched up, and kept fighting. A ranger named Todd Blackburn fell nearly 70 feet from a helicopter rope at the start of the mission and had to be carried under heavy fire for hours. One of many whose courage went unseen by the public. By dawn, after 18 hours of chaos, a rescue convoy of U.S., Malaysian, and Pakistani armored vehicles finally broke through the gunfire and reached the survivors. The soldiers emerged bloodied, dehydrated, and broken, carrying their wounded on makeshift stretchers made from metal doors and cloth. 18 Americans were dead, 73 wounded, and more than 1,000 Somalis lay lifeless across the city, a horrifying testament to the cost of urban warfare. The haunting image of a fallen American dragged through Mogadishu's streets burned itself into history, forever changing U.S. military policy. What most people don't realize is how deeply this battle shaped future conflicts, from Iraq to Afghanistan. The Pentagon redesigned urban combat training, improved communication between air and ground units, and created faster rescue protocols, all born from the agony of that night. But the scars went far beyond the battlefield. Many survivors later confessed they could still smell the burning metal years later, still hear the static of their radios, still wake up at night seeing the faces of those they couldn't save. One ranger described it as a fight where time stopped, where courage wasn't about winning, it was about not giving up even when you already knew you might die. The Battle of Mogadishu wasn't just a mission gone wrong, it was a descent into the darkest corners of war, where discipline, fear, and raw survival merged into one. It revealed what few outsiders ever see, that behind every headline of heroism are moments of terror, doubt, and impossible decisions. And now, decades later, as we look back at that haunting October night, one question still cuts through the silence. When everything collapses, when the city burns, your brothers fall, and death stands a breath away, what truly drives a soldier to keep fighting in the face of the impossible?